And you're welcome back. You're still watching Business Money segment. And very quickly, let's go straight to the first conversation of today, talking about the 2025 Directors Conference, driving corporate resilience and innovation across Africa. Now, corporate leaders from across Africa are converging. They've already converged, as a matter of fact, for the 2025 Annual Directors Conference, a high-level gathering focused on redefining leadership, governance, and innovation in a rapidly evolving digital economy. Now, the 2025 Directors Conference brought together top executive board chairpersons, policymakers, and thought leaders from various sectors across the continent. Now, this year's theme, Leadership in the Digital Decade, Transforming Boards for a Smarter Africa, highlighted the urgent need for corporate boards to adapt to the realities of technological disruption, sustainability, and even inclusive growth. Key discussions at the conference centered on strengthening corporate governance, deepening digital transformation, and building resilient organizations capable of thriving in an unpredictable global landscape. Industry experts noted and that as Africa positions itself as a hub for innovation and investment, effective leadership in strategic boardroom decisions also played a crucial role in driving economic transformation. And participants that charted actionable strategies, bridging leadership gaps, foster corporate accountability, and aligned African businesses with global sustainability and digital standards. Now, Africa enters a new decade of growth and innovation, because the 2025 Director Conference underscored a single truth, that a visionary tech-driven leadership also defined the continent's corporate future. And now joining us is Dr. Dele Alausa. He's the Director General and the Chief Executive Officer, Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for staying with us. And also, we want to thank you especially for adding one or two in our newspaper review segments. That was actually very strategic. We thought to take advantage of your expertise in this field. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank
and now, very quickly, what are the key takeaways from the 2025 Annual Directors Conference for corporate leaders across Africa?
Okay, thank you once again for having me. At the Chartered Institute of Directors, we believe that corporate governance is not just about compliance. It's about leadership, accountability, and the creation of enduring value. And that is one of the basic thrusts of the Annual Directors Conference, to reaffirm the one powerful truth that boards across Africa must literally change, but not merely pay lip service to it, but respond to it and activate it. And one of the key takeaways of the 2025 Annual Conference is about governance and ethical leadership, all right? That good governance and ethical leadership are non-negotiable foundations for economic growth and institutionalized resilience. It is our view, and also the view of most our presenters at the conference, that leaders must intentionally pursue inclusive growth by expanding access to finance, energy, infrastructure, and for generally not just for all businesses alone, but also for MSMEs, all right, by also linking local realities to national development plans. We believe that these synergies must come together for economic growth. And for economic growth to materialize, boards must sit up, because, boards are the basic engine for entrepreneurial development. So boards must sit up, must analyze foresight, scenario planning, stress testing, cyber readiness, and also another one key aspect that we stressed during the conference was succession planning. All right, succession planning, boards must make succession planning a basic priority of their affairs, because most times, most of these companies, you see that at times a company run for like 10, 15 years is good. After some time, there's a downward curve. Why? Because there was succession planning was not properly put into effect. And also treat risk management as a source of competitive advantage rather than a compliance tick box, which is what we do here. Most of our activities are on tick box. So these are some of the takeaways that we that from that particular conference. That good governance and ethical leadership are non-negotiable, and they are a very important ingredient for economic growth.
Wow. Now, a good governance is not negotiable and a very good ingredient for economic growth. That's very striking, if you ask me. And okay, how does this year's conference theme actually reflect the evolving role of boards, especially in a rapidly changing global economy?
Well, the theme, leading through change,
Yeah.
building sustainable and inclusive enterprises, captures a shift, that talks about one, that boards are no longer passive overseers. They are not a tick in the box. When you go to CAC, people just put it together, and they feel that the boards should just be like a rubber stamp. No, not at all. That's one of the things we are trying to emphasize. That boards must be active and must be active architects of sustainable strategy and social inclusion. It is important that boards must connect enterprise strategy to national development goals. All enterprises, what is the goal? Boards must champion ESG, climate resilience, and boards must also ensure that they drive partnerships between business and government so that firms can contribute to broader competitiveness and social progress. Those are the basic things, and that resonates across all our speakers during the conference.
Oh, wow. So then, how should boards actually reposition themselves in light of rising digital ESG and even regulatory expectations?
Well, you see, there are some things that is important for boards to do, which they must institutionalize, what I would call standing agenda items. One, cybersecurity. Boards must ensure they make cybersecurity a very important part of their activities, part of their agenda. ESG metrics, climate adaptation, regulatory origin scanning, for I mean of the organization itself. These are important things. Boards must invest in director development, which is what we do at the Charter Institute of Directors. Very, very important. Director training, officers, even boards themselves in training. That's some of the things which we do. The board and the CEO and others like that. So director development is very, very important. And part of that development should also focus on the new things, AI, artificial intelligence, digital frequency, AI governance, scenario planning, strategy, leadership. These are important things that must happen. That boards must do. Then also, boards must also receive independent assurance on ESG and cyber controls. That all these things makes compliance proactive, strategic. And they also ensure a kind of a value creation for them. And when that happens, they will have seen that rather than being reactive when institutions fall, they will have been active. They will have prevented a whole lot of things because of their scenario planning and testing over time.
So now, in what ways can boards actually strengthen transparency, accountability, and ethical leadership in corporate governance?
Destiny, one thing I found out in my, almost 3 decades of administration and leadership is one, lead by example. Very, very important. Or to use this medium to tell board members, always ensure you lead by example. It's as simple as that. Be exemplary. Adopt clear disclosure strategies. Any meeting, if you have any interest in whatever is being discussed, anything like that, disclose it. Recluse yourself from that particular discussion. Also, there must also be mandatory reporting on succession planning. Communicate openly with stakeholders about risk and trade-offs. And also ensure you formalize post-crisis reviews to turn less institutional wisdom. But most above all, lead by example. Boards must ensure ethical standards. This is very, very important, and this must be included in whatever they do. performance metrics and remuneration must be clear. They must create structural stakeholder engagement frameworks. Very, very important. These are some of the things that ensure openness, and transparency. All right. And they must also convert one-off consultations into continuous dialogue. Transparency is key in all that we do. The transparency is very key. Keep trust, ensure trust, be open, be honest. Live by example, practice what you preach, and you will see that in one way or the other, this strengthens a whole lot of things within the board.
It's key. That's a very striking word. You spoke about trust. You spoke about just doing the right things and giving the right examples. Those are very, very important features in this regard. Okay, Daniel, how can directors balance profit objectives and long-term sustainability and also stakeholder value? Very important. Can you expand on this?
Well, the basic thing here is about we must know that profit is necessary, but profit is not sufficient for long-term value. Yeah. Directors should require strategic plans. Strategic plan is very, very important. That is why earlier when I was talking about training and development, that it is important that leadership trainings must also be included. Leadership and strategic planning is very, very important. That also requires strategic plans, that explicitly map short-term returns against long-term sustainability metrics and stakeholder outcomes. Once that happens, right, you'll be able to balance it, because you should not just look at that about just the short-term gains, but how far can the long-term plan, strategic plans ensure sustainability of the organization or institution?
That's very, very encouraging, just the way you've illustrated it. But then again, what role does board diversity play in improving corporate decision making?
Wow, diversity is very, very important. Is key in governance, especially in these days, what we call the Gen Zs and not artificial intelligence, AI. And you will see that most boards are also transiting from where you have the 65, 70-year-olds now. They're trying to be inclusive and trying to bring the younger people into it, those in their 30s, mid-40s and all. It's very, very important. And when diversity is key, and not just about, because in the past we've talked about women inclusion in board governance. It's just not about women inclusion now, but age diversity is also very, very important. The different age grades must be part of the board, so that they can bring in the different things. Especially when it comes to technology now, a 76, 80-year-old will not know how. Does not know how to use AI or ChatGPT or all. Whereas the young ones know how to do this. So diversity is key in terms of cognitive experience, background, gender, age. When you have diversity, it kind of widens the board scope, and improves risk identification and enhances decision quality. So it's very, very important. And this is one of the things that the conference stressed. The conference stressed measurable targets for women and youth in leadership pipelines. That we must have it, and must be, any board being considered must be deliberate about this. And diversity, because diversity also helps firm tap the youth demographic. Once you do that, you'll be able to include the youth demographic in what you do in your business. And you gradually you see the dividends in the market, in the result of the organization, in the product, and also in your profit.
You spoke about diversity. Right.
More so, let me also add that diverse boards are more resilient. They are more creative, right? And their decisions are more acceptable, because what they take from everybody.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Doctor, you've spoken at length about diversity and the reason why artificial intelligence is, supposed to be inclusive, right about now. And you also spoke about how the young ones are very, very familiar with this trend, having been born into it, so the difference is very clear. So now, please, I want to ask for your favor to answer these remaining questions speedily because of time, and so we'll be able, to accommodate all of your questions. Thank you very much, Doctor. So, how important is continuous director education and capacity building for board effectiveness?
Wow. It's in academic we say that you either write or perish. But if you don't also read, you perish. If you don't upskill, you perish. Why are you in the board? You are in the board to enrich the quality of discussion, to enrich the quality of the organization, to improve the organization. And so when you are not upskilled, when you are not trained, what happens? You are coming there empty. So it's important that directors skill up in digital transformation. It's very, very important. AI governance, crisis leadership, climate resilience, it's important. I also want to advocate for, which we do and chapters of directors, continuous learning for directors. It keeps directors competent, it helps them to oversee emerging risks and opportunities. Because without upskilling, the board risks becoming obsolete, or ill-equipped to protect long-term value. So it's important.
And how should boards balance innovation with compliance and also risk management?
Wow. What I can say there is it's important that boards must accept control failure as part of innovation, but with clear guardrails set by the board. What I'm trying to say in essence is that board must separate, a kind of oversight. They must link oversight, innovation pipelines accountable to the board must as much as possible be well looked into. Periodic risk assessment reviews must take place, independent assurance and all. The balance preserves compliance while enabling transformation. So both must look at this and also have what I can call a fund foresight, into events that may happen, risk management and all. So innovation is key. The boss should treat innovation and risk as complementary. They must and try as much as possible to see how they can always bridge the gap at every point in time.
All right. And having said that, how can you add a current global economic trends shaping corporate governance in Nigeria and Africa?
Well, when we talk about global economic trends now, we are talking about trade disruptions,
Okay. Yeah.
Energy transition, AFCTA, driven market integration and fintech innovation. These things are making governance more complex and strategic. So the most important thing is the fact that we are now in the VUCA world, so boards must therefore emphasize agility. Agility. Remember earlier when I spoke about succession planning, talent readiness, and a kind of a public and private alignment so that they can convert these strengths into competitive advantage. All right. And this is one major thing that the ADC Annual Directors Conference this year actually highlighted, that national competitiveness will hinge on the energy transition, fintech disruption, AFCT integration, and youth dividend, because we have quite a lot of that. And governance must be adapted to enhance them. It's important that we must put all these things together as a core advantage for national growth and economic sustainability.
For national growth and economic sustainability. Wow, I agree that those are very important values. But then again, how do directors balance short-term performance with long-term value creation?
Well, the basic thing there is what we practice here at CIOD, and which we train at our independent directors boards and all. The directors must establish a governance approach. Very important, that aligns immediate operational goals with the organization's broader strategic vision. There must be clear, defined key performance indicators, for the executive that reward both near-term results and sustainable long-term outcomes. It's important. When we're talking about sustainable long-term outcomes like innovation, talent development, and environmental responsibility. These are important key factors that both must take into cognizance. All right. Multi-year incentive structures must also be put in place for that. I mentioned succession planning, capacity development, very, very important. Foresight mechanisms, all right? So it's important that the directors and boards must continue to build this kind of resilience, continuity, So these are the key things that can, as much as possible, balance short-term performance with long-term value creation.
That was supposed to be my last question, but I'm just going to just add one more question for you to just briefly explain to me if you agree, that a lot of directors in different fields in Nigeria are not technocrats. So they'll be able, to do the right thing actually. Do you agree with me? If not, what do you think should be done on this particular issue?
Well, in fairness, when a board is constituted, it's not expected that you must put all, the people who have the know-how, the technical background about that particular business in the board. No. And why boards are created is because you have diversity of people. So when that happens, then the most important thing then is capacity development, capacity building, training, skilling of the board, so that they understand what their roles are and know how to manage it. Is important. So diversity is welcome. It's not expected that you have the key technocrats in those boards, no. But what happens afterwards when they are constituted is there must be continuous development of that particular board so that you can achieve the right results. And also, very key is that there must also be what I call a very valuable terms of reference, right? That aligns with the ultimate goals of that particular organization, the strategic goals, long-term goals of the organization. Is also very, very important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dele Alausa. He is the Director General and Chief Executive Officer, Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I quite appreciate this. Thank you so much. And I must say, I miss those days of training, and you know where. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you. Well, we are always welcome. We can always look at that again and see how trainings can continue. It's continuous growth and development.
I agree. And I must say, you're a very professional trainer, having experienced it once. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Business Morning. And have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
On Business Morning, we'll be right back after this break for our second conversation. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back to Business Morning. And now moving on to our second segment for today. Talking about powering progress on why digital infrastructure is the new oil. In the age of artificial intelligence, data and connectivity is a new kind of wealth, and it's being generated not from oil wells, but from digital networks. As the world moves deeper into the fourth industrial revolution, experts say digital infrastructure has become the new oil powering global progress. From Lagos to London, from Silicon Valley to Singapore, nations are investing heavily in digital infrastructure, fiber optic networks, data centers, cloud systems, and broadband connectivity, believing these are the engines that will drive the next wave of economic growth. Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, is no exception, with a population of over 200 million and one of the fastest growing tech ecosystems on the continent. The country's leaders and private sector innovators are betting big on the digital economy. But experts warn that digital infrastructure isn't just about connectivity. It's also about sovereignty and resilience. And as cyber threats rise and global data flows become more politically sensitive, countries are realizing that controlling their own digital network is a matter of national security as much as economic opportunity. And now joining us is Akosa Adola Maduka. He is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, CubeSoft Limited. Good morning, Mr. Maduka.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on the short notice. Now, talking about general understanding, right? How would you define digital infrastructure in today's interconnected economy?
Thank you for that. Digital infrastructure really is, well, like we mentioned before, it's a complete system of physical and virtual components. We're talking about the that allows data to be transmitted, to be stored, to be processed. So we're looking at things like fiber optics, so the physical aspect, like fiber optic cables, your masts, your 5G, 4G masts, 6G masts, which is coming up eventually. And then you have your data centers, which are also physical, so your servers and all your connecting cables, everything that is the physical aspect of digital infrastructure. So that is the core of digital infrastructure, really. It's the connectivity, which are your fiber cables, and then the storage system, which are your data centers, and your cloud computing as well. So that's pretty much how you define a general definition of digital infrastructure.
So then why is digital infrastructure becoming a key pillar of national development strategies globally?
Well, why it is because information right now, they say information is king right now. No society can function without information. We live on information. We live on data. And to be able to move this data around, able to move data around quickly, efficiently, and without problems is needed, heavily needed by any economy, by any nation right now. So moving that information, storing that information. I mean, right now, people, organizations, countries, everywhere you go, they make decisions based on what we call big data. So they have a lot of data at their disposal. They go through tons of this data, analyze it, check it, organize it, and then make decisions based off this data. So to be able to store, move, transmit this data, and have access to this data quickly, efficiently is needed. In fact, it's critical for any economy to thrive and to grow.
Okay, now talking about development and investment, right? What investments are most critical for building resilient digital infrastructure in developing economies?
Well, the more critical is really power. You have to invest. It's not part of design, but it's a key fundamental part. Once you have that in place, then the next most important critical investment position for me is your backbone network. Your backbone network are the pipelines. If you can imagine your Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. So your backbone carries a lot of data over a large period, over a long distance. So we're talking about connecting Lagos to Abuja to Sokoto. So once you have your backbone infrastructure in place, then you can now start what they call the last mile connection, which is from your network, from your backbone to your area, to your street, to your house. And once you do that, so those are the three key areas where you have to invest critically to build a resilient digital infrastructure in any economy, developing economy right now.
With private partnerships actually accelerate infrastructure deployment and even digital inclusion?
I would say yes. I would say yes, they do. Because private PPP, which is public-private partnerships, that's what we're talking about, is extremely important because there's so much the public sector can do. There's only so much the government can do. And in some other economies, and in truth, a lot of people believe that the government's job is not to make money. The government's job is just to create an environment where the private sector can thrive. And when you have the private sector public partnership, the public sector, which is the government, can say, okay, we want data infrastructure in XYZ area, we want to get rural areas, we want to get it to where the people need it the most. But it's now the private sector that will bring in new technology, innovations to get this thing done quicker. And when private sector, because for private sector, time is money, and money is key. Projects tend to work faster, they're more efficient, they are completed on time, they're completed within budget once the private sector is involved. So having the private sector, and then after that, making sure it's maintained properly, operated properly, that's where the private sector is key. So really, for a good digital infrastructure to be developed in any developing economy, there needs to be large participation from the private sector. Yes.
Okay, now, so what financing models do you think work best for sustainable digital infrastructure projects?
Well, for sustainable digital infrastructure, apart from the PPP we just mentioned, which is the public-private partnership, that is a fantastic modeling style because private sector people know how to raise money. They know how to go to capital market to raise money. There are also things that the public sector and private can do together, which are things like green bonds that are like loans from the government, but are tailored more towards sustainable development. And also there are some banks, international banks that will aid in developmental projects. So they will gladly give loans and assistance when they know that the project is going to be sustainable, it's going to help the economy, it's going to help people as well. So it's a bit, so those are different models to access when you're looking for finance for this kind of projects. That is the best bet. That's the best way to do it.
Talking about policy and regulations, what policies are essential to encourage innovation while actually maintaining digital security and privacy?
Ooh, you're asking some tough questions this morning, no matter.
Because I know that you are in and you can do this.
Okay. Well, for me, the most important policy really is a policy of transparency and user accountability. This is important because you need the government to put in policies that will help any organization that wants to come into this space know that whatever they do, they are kind of like protected. So that's what I mean by transparency. What are you doing? What is going on? How much are you spending? It's very important for people to know where their government money is going. It's very important to also be able to have faith that, okay, if the government says we're doing this project and they bring in a company to join them, that company is capable. So policies that are put in place like that are very important. Then you have data protection policies, extremely important as well. As I mentioned earlier, the world is fueled now by information and by data. This data has to be protected.
Wow.
You cannot just, so it's very important that the government puts policies in place for that. Then you have a lot of public awareness and training. You have to also tell people what's going on. How do you gain advantages from this? What do you need to do as well? I mean, we have a country where if I put in fiber cables, it can be stolen overnight and they will not use it to something else. But you have to also educate people that by you stealing that fiber cable, you're not just harming the government, you're harming yourself. You're harming your neighbors, you're harming your community. So this public awareness that has to be done by the public sector, which is the government, this has to be put in place very strongly to tell people that, look, this is for everybody. So those are the strong policies that have to be put in place and must be adhered to. Very important.
That's a very strong policy, and definitely it has to be adhered to. Now, how can governments ensure fair access and even competition within the digital infrastructure space?
The first thing the government has to do to maintain fairness is have a level playing field. It should not be one rule for Mr. A, another set of rules for Mr. B. So there has to be, and the level playing field must be stated clearly and observed and followed to the letter. That is very important. Then we have to encourage local content. You have to encourage people locally to come into the market. You can't just bring in foreigners to come and do all the work. That kind of removes the fairness because, of course, they are coming with a huge advantage. But you should have like a policy put in place that if percentage of all work done within the digital infrastructure space must be done by local investors, local companies. This also helps to make it fair and open for everyone else. And then you now have the simple anti-monopoly rules must be put in place, where no company is allowed to own or control all your data, all your infrastructure. So it has to be put in place. So it could be things as simple as, okay, Southwest, one company, South, another company. So, do you know what? So that way, it's fair, it's shared evenly, and no one company can just monopolize and control the whole structure, which is very, very important.
So then in what ways can regulatory bottlenecks actually slow digital infrastructure growth? And then how can they be addressed?
Oh, okay. So I'll take it, that's a two-part. So I'll take each bottleneck and then how they really can be addressed. The most, I'm sure this has happened to anybody in Nigeria that has ever tried to get any kind of government paper like your passport, your tax clearance, any paper like that, bureaucracy and long approval process. You have, so this kind of bottleneck, this kind of bottleneck slows down digital infrastructure growth a lot. Simple things like getting a permit to dig a road, to dig a hole beside a road can take weeks. So this kind of thing, so how to address it is seamless and automated processes. Once people know, so there should be a policy in place by the government that if a project is for digital infrastructure, is to grow your digital backbone, it should be seamless and automated. So process should go seamlessly, approval should come out without problems, and all these things have to be done quickly, and it has to be at the government end. So bureaucracy and lengthy approval processes are key to be removed to remove bottlenecks. Another very strong regulation is high cost of permits and different types of taxation. Different permits, you need a permit to cross the road, you need a permit to dig the road, you need a permit to erect a, by the time you have 5 permits from 5 different government agencies, you're going to have major problems and it will slow down your growth no end. Permits and taxes should be kept low, should be streamlined, so it's one agency in charge of giving as many of these permits as possible, and the price cost should be kept low. I know everybody wants to make money, but at the end of the day, you have to weigh making money vis-a-vis growing your economy, growing your digital infrastructure. So those two things are really the most, I would say, the worst regulatory processes that create bottlenecks and slow down digital infrastructure growth.
Wow. Okay, now moving on, I'm talking about technology and innovation, right? How do we imagine technologies like 5G, cloud computing, and even edge networks actually reshape digital infrastructure needs?
Those are emerging technologies, are new technologies,
Yeah,
5G, cloud computing, edge networking. And what that has done is that it has made our digital infrastructure needs grow. I'll say the need is now immense. You really need it. And you need fast, solid, easily maintained networks now. Gone are the days where when we were growing up, your network was copper. They used to lay copper cables for your telephone and you were sorted. That's why fiber is very important now, because with the advent of cloud computing especially, cloud computing demands a lot of data. It has to be very fast moving data. So speed, and it must be up constantly. So it can't fail. So you now have a situation where the digital infrastructure needs have to be much faster, much more secure, and fail-proof. So those 3 things have really increased exponentially with the advent of 5G, because 5G gets to, as I said, 5G is like your last mile connection. So you have your your mast to your house, to your phone. That's where 5G is. But your backbone that connects all those masts together, that connects the entire country, is still built on a fiber optic backbone. And that has to be extremely fast, extremely secure, and completely fail-proof. We're talking about 99.99% uptime. So that's what really has changed with the new technology coming in, with 5G, cloud computing, and edge networking coming in more prominent now. It's made our infrastructure has to be more resilient and much faster, able to cope with these new technologies coming in.
What are the biggest gaps in Nigeria's or even Africa's digital infrastructure ecosystem as of today?
I'm smiling because our biggest gap is power.
Power, okay.
Is power.
Okay.
Right now, I'm in my office, I'm sitting down talking to you, I have no power. We're running on a generator and my backup inverter is ready. So power, if you give power, 24/7 electricity, then people can plan. The cost of putting your network, your data infrastructure network together reduces considerably. I mean, a good example I'm showing now is like a mast. To put up a 5G mast, apart from the mast itself, you have to buy a generator to power it, and then you have to buy inverter batteries so that when your generator has no diesel, your inverter batteries take over. Costs like this increase the amount it takes to create a digital infrastructure ecosystem in the country today. It makes it harder to maintain. It makes it easier for breaks to occur. I mean, your inverter batteries go down, your whole system goes down. You can putting a data center in Nigeria today costs a lot more than putting a data center in, let's say, the US or the UK or even South Africa that have constant power, because a data center cannot exist without it being powered 24/7. So by the time you are putting solar panels, inverter batteries, two diesel generators, a generator, and a backup generator for your original generator, your costs go up exponentially. So that is very, very important. It's power. Another thing is our cost of internet access is still high. Yes, now that is obviously a dovetail from the fact that it costs so much to put the infrastructure in place. So that is now a problem again with Nigeria. It's so expensive, and that's because of the power thing. It's expensive to put in digital infrastructure. It's expensive to lay these fiber optic cables, which now means your cost of internet is high. So it's a chain reaction of power. Everything else we come to, but we're still limited, heavily limited in our broadband, fixed broadband infrastructure, which are the cabling, the fiber optic cable, is still very limited. It's only in urban areas that you get that kind of thing. Most rural areas don't have it. In fact, some rural areas are still on 3G. 4G has not penetrated some villages in Nigeria. So that is also a major problem, which is connectivity to all areas. So, but as you fix each one, you fix the power, you fix the broadband backbone, then you can now fix the connectivity. That's the last mile connectivity issues that go to your house, to your phone. So you take them one as you are fixing each one. By the time you are done, it will be seamless, price will come down, people will now start enjoying it, but you have to get those things in place. It's a major gap for Nigeria now.
Thank you so much. We've been talking to the MD CEO, CubeSoft Limited, and that's in the person of Dr. Maduka. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm still a Mr.
Well, I'm meeting you very fast. I've been talking to Mr. Bola Maduka. Thank you so much for joining us, and we really do appreciate the insights that you've given us talking about the data ecosystem in Nigeria as it concerns infrastructure, digital infrastructure. You've given us in-depth knowledge and analysis. I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. And that's it for Business Money today. Thank you for staying with us as we track the latest trends shaping markets and the economy. Remember, business decisions are stronger when backed by the right information. I am Destiny MomoH. Do have and stay tuned for more updates on the big story, and join us again tomorrow for another edition of Business Morning on the Breakfast Show. Good morning.